What's going on out there? My name is Justice Severin. If you didn't know, I am the owner of Original Chapters. I run the Bestseller Business Mastermind, and I'm the creator of the 30-Minute Coaches System. All right, so for today, I want to really crack into your future $1,000,000 ecosystem, what I believe it can do for you in the business, what it's done for me in a sense. It's changed my life in a sense because the way that I see it, I really have just been taking this approach from the get-go. And I think I didn't realize that I was taking the approach when I was getting into it. But really, you're going to see today how so much of what I got into really just kind of just hits home in all of it. So I want to get into all that. And obviously, too, if this is your first time here, this channel really, it's for coaches and creators who want to monetize a wildly profitable personal brand and reap all the other benefits that comes with that. And really building what I like to refer to as your bestseller business. Okay, so if you're new, go ahead and comment, write the word new down below in the comments. If you're returning, obviously go ahead and, drop a hashtag back again, hashtag feeling good to be here, whatever. I love seeing people be creative on that side. And obviously, I will say this too, if you're returning, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, if you haven't already. If you're new, I'll give you a pass. Don't feel like you need to do that yet. Let's wait until I get you some value here. But obviously, I want to go ahead and make sure we dive into today because it's just such a powerful topic that, like I said, I really feel like it's something where I didn't realize I was doing it. And then once I was able to really bring attention to it, it really just started to open the floodgates up there, right? And it really builds around this idea of having your own ecosystem. And obviously, the way that I say it's your future $1,000,000 ecosystem because for myself, it has truly generated me $1,000,000 and beyond in my business as we sit here right now. I crossed the $1,000,000 marker in my business in 2024, early 2024, actually, to be specific, around the first quarter. But regardless, I want you to see just kind of some of the places that I took advantage and leveraged to make this possible. So let's go out the gates, really jump into this here too. And obviously, this may be a first time seeing me here on YouTube. Before this, and this is a great place to kind of segue into this conversation today. Before this, I actually switched over from doing live streams in my community. I run a community called the Bestseller Business Community. Really, at its core, the way that I see it really is it's the Coaches and Creators Society. But really, I switched over from live streams in my Coaches and Creators community over here on YouTube. And, I made that decision. Last week was actually the finale because I was doing live streams there for so long as in literally 5 years. And it was my finale last week. And so that was on Wednesday. I'm always releasing these videos on Wednesdays, whether it's live stream. Now it's, but pre-recorded videos, I guess, going forward there. And really, I had a client. So I run my inner circle calls on Tuesdays, at least at the time you're recording this. And I had a client ask me, on my inner circle call yesterday, like why the change, and I remember I gave a variety of reasons, honestly, at first, why I believe this move ultimately happened and kind of realistically more so why I truly felt like this move ultimately wouldn't change much. But the core reason in reality, which is really what kind of helped me to develop this idea of this topic here today, is that the reason why, a large part of the reason, at least maybe the last big push that made me ultimately changed to doing live streams, moving over here to doing YouTube long form, just these pre-recorded type videos here, really is because Facebook is no longer storing live streams beyond 30 days after they're created. And this really reminded me of what my core purpose behind live streams was initially, right? Like for myself, I never really cared about how many people were watching my live streams. Like that wasn't, I wasn't like getting high off of, hopefully I can get 20 people to watch this time, 50 people, 1,000 people. That was never really my driving force. And I think because one, that's something where I just was never like, I'm not going for vanity metrics. I've always kind of said with views and pieces like that. To me, what matters more so is how many people are actually watching that can be turning into potential buyers. When it comes down to it, this is all that really matters here. So when it came down to me for the live streams, if people are watching, great, but I really cared about the asset that I was creating for the future. That was really the big piece driving me forward as far as, all right, what am I trying to do? What am I trying to accomplish? This is really the big thing. I want to make something. I want to spend time right now, my energy more specifically right now, to create a valuable asset that I can then go ahead and leverage for weeks, months, and years away, right? That is just a game changer that really really opened my eyes. And so when I thought about that in the sense of even adjusting where, and we're going to talk about what this kind of centerpiece is here, but adjusting my centerpiece in the business over to YouTube, really, when it comes down to putting these longer form videos, I truly see it as it didn't change anything, because in reality, I was never doing it for the major benefits of the live stream. And I think that what I did accomplish by running live streams for 5 years is that I did get the benefits of people. It really helped to expand my expertise. It really gave people the chance to realize, like, my authenticity, built up my authority, because it's really tough to show up doing lives for 5 years straight. Like, really showing up, no edits, no cuts, no reverse. Let me bring that back. None of that there, right? And I think that it just says a lot compared to YouTube, where everything is just so super polished, super edited, flash cuts, B-roll this, B-roll that. At the end of the day, people want raw value, right? They want the authenticity, and that's really what I believe doing it there for so long helped me. But then at its core, now that I've kind of built that up, I have a larger brand, a larger audience, a wave of client results. I don't need that benefit as much here. And so now I'm really looking at it as the raw essence of, I now have these longer form assets that I can continue to use in my business in order to help me in the future when it comes down to what I'm trying to accomplish, right? So really, and I bring all this because something I've always kind of spoken about, especially I speak about a lot with my 30-minute content, is 30-minute coaching system, is really that this main kind of core piece of content, the brand stimulant, that 30-minute piece of content there, if you will. And really, I forget what the label is. At the end of the day, you want to have it where you have something that really is at the center of your world. It's at the center of your ecosystem, right? And then that just, if we take it one step back and go 30,000 foot view, it's really this idea of you need to be able to create your world, right? So that when folks come in, and this is how I see it, I want to make it so that when folks came in, I can organically have them landing on specific pieces of content, right? Whether I'm doing this via automation or manually, right? And like I said here, I want to have this done where I can be this. I always operate in this thought process of leverage, right? I want to be able to truly have it where I can spend energy creating something once and allow that to save me time in the future, because I'm able to use the energy spent on this one asset, and I'm able to get that in front of people over and over again, right? And really, I want to make something that I know I'm able to receive those benefits from it far beyond the day that it's created. Similar to how, think about this idea to how on a sales call, you really only have the leverage of that 160-minute conversation. That's really only truly beneficial outside of you could argue you're studying and getting better, all that kind of stuff. But it really is only that much more beneficial where we're tying it towards that one prospect, right? And so that's where for you right now, I really want you to just start to think about that in the sense of, let's compare that to an offer doc, right? A sales funnel, something of this nature where you can create it once and you can continuously make sales from that over and over again. I'm not here to hate on or crap on sales call by any means. I think that they're very valuable. Sales calls are huge for me at the start of my business. I'd be lying to you if I said I never jump on any sales calls now. But the big difference is that I want to have that balance, and I want to make sure that I'm maintaining strength where I can have leverage in the business. All right. So really, when I think about my philosophy now, right, I really want to bring in exactly who I want either. And this is really, let's take one step back. I want you to think about my philosophy when it comes down to strategy as a whole, making money online, marketing strategy, call this a 30,000 foot view that simplifies pieces so we can now go deep into where we need to. Okay. So really my philosophy at its core is really, I want to be able to bring in exactly who I want, either via organic outreach or via paid ads. Right. And I want to be able to do this. And basically, once I have that, once I've created my audience through those, one or both of those two vehicles there, I now want to methodically move folks around my world. Right. And no, I think that, why people kind of struggle to build an ecosystem or a strong enough world, if you will, and kind of why they struggle with that, I think is because of a lack of consistency. Right. Specifically, a lack of consistency when it comes down to putting out content over the long run, and once again, whether it's via organic or paid ads, honestly, because for me, once again, I want to really get super clear, and I should have an understanding. If you don't know, let's just say for one, you should really have your foundation dialed in when it comes to your offer and your avatar as far as who you're trying to sell to. If you don't have that, it makes it very tough now to know who you even want in your audience. Who do you want to be joining your world, right? It's like you need to picture yourself as like the security guard to your, the world, the ecosystem is the club, if you will, or what at the bar, or whatever, right? And it's like you need to make sure that you are at the door checking for ID, right? And it's like, instead of checking, are you 18 or over or 21 or older, depending on where you're at to drink, it's like, do you meet these qualifications? Do you fit this criteria? If not, you're out of here. It's almost like this is the one place where at the door segregation's allowed, except we're not doing it based off of, the color of your skin. We're doing it based off of what are you trying to do? What are you trying to build? For me, it's like I'm not really trying to help people, as an example, who are, e-commerce selling low ticket by the boatload. I'm trying to help people who are doing more high ticket coaches and creators, right? They want to work with less people in order to make a larger impact and a larger income. That's my philosophy, my kind of drive here, right? And so if you can understand that, this can now really allow you to start to get more methodical once again with who you're being selective on joining your world. And like I said, you can do this very well with organic, realistically, if with the outreach mentality here and the outreach strategy. And at the same time, you can do this very well at the same time with paid advertising if you get your targeting dialed in correctly, right? Let's take this one, if you will, one step back, right? Because I said, once again, whether this is organic or via paid ads, I've been doing live streams consistently since 2020, right? 5 years at the time of me recording this, that is. And as of last week, I was doing them consistently every single Wednesday since 2021. And when I say every Wednesday, like, I'm not going to say that I never missed a Wednesday, but I really did not miss many Wednesdays. Like, I wasn't skipping them just to skip them. It wasn't like, I missed one a month or once every couple months. Like, I really wasn't. It was like, is it a holiday this Wednesday? No, then I'm doing it. I can remember like one or two vacations where I didn't do a live stream, but I'll tell you what, I've literally done live streams walking on the beach while I'm on vacation. And I think that it says something about that when it comes down to being consistent, right? Because you need to make something so that you can stay consistent with it. A great idea and kind of piece that I believe you should also lean into is a good time to start something new is when you're busy. Right? Because if you can do it when you're busy, you'll stick with it for the long run. I think that's a lot of times where people really mess up with their content strategy, right? And even in this now, if we compare the live streams even to this current form, right? My long form content is still going to continue, right? Just not specifically in the live stream form. Right? Being able to place focus on this one piece of content, though, over a long period of time has made it far easier for me mentally to continue pumping out content, right? Because I wasn't worried about pumping out a ton of other content at the same time. Like I said, I think this is where it gets tough for people because they're trying to just do so many different things. And for myself, I made a post about, I think it was like from 2023, 2024, I made this post. Must have been, I feel like it was in 2024. I was talking about 2023, I think, right? Or it was, yeah, I believe that was it. And I was talking about how I made $11,300 per post that I put on my Facebook profile. But the reality behind that was really that, yes, I only put out 31 posts on my profile, which most people on there, whether it's their Facebook profile, Instagram profile, TikTok profile, that's where they're pumping out the most content. For me, I wasn't taking that approach. I was taking the approach of, let me go ahead and make the most valuable piece of content one time per week inside of my community. I'm going to do that. And then even in my community, I really wasn't posting much else besides that. Like literally most weeks I was posting one time per week. And like I said, this gave me the energy and the clarity to stay super consistent while delivering a ton of value. And I think that's where you want to find ways to find this balance where you can stay consistent while delivering the most value. It's the main reason why we're taking this approach as far as trying to stay consistent or trying to find that way, because we know the more we can get in front of our audience and give them this value, the better, right? So you need to do what allows you to stay consistent, right? I said everybody tries to be way too perfect, and in my eyes, it just quickly leads to burnout. Right? And that's the last thing you want. And let's even just compare this. I'm on YouTube recording this right now. If we look back 3 years ago, right, 2022, I was back when I was doing YouTube then. Is that 2022? Yeah, it's 2025 now. Back when I was doing then, I was so focused on doing YouTube the right way, right? I was really, I was wanting to have, the super polished videos. I had the expensive editor, the fancy thumbnails, but really it led to me really just not staying consistent with it, and led to me inevitably not being able to sustain the content long term, right? And when I look at what I did to stay consistent with the live streams, the difference was clear, right? It's because it allowed me to not go so extreme in order to stay consistent. It's almost like I gave myself a pass. I basically wasn't setting myself up for failure. And that's the same approach I'm bringing to YouTube right now, right? Like, as you can tell, like, I'm just riffing through this one cut. I'm not changing camera angles. I'm giving this to you raw because I know the value is what you need. I want to make sure that I give it to you, right? So on this front now, I just want you to really highlight that these are places where I just feel like if we can understand this and then understand how we can make valuable pieces of content and then obviously double down to spread them through the masses, right, in an effective way, it can be extremely powerful for you in the business, right? So that's a really big piece. Is that making sense there, right? Hit the like button, obviously, if this is hitting home for you, getting some value already here, too. Like, this is really where I want you to get moving on this side, because I just know that things can truly get rolling for you on that, and if you can lean in here, too. All right, so that's where out the gates. Like I said, I want to give us that so we can really kind of have a strong understanding of where we're jumping off from so we can then take things from here, right? So now let's get into this idea of creating your world, aka your ecosystem. Okay. One of the first steps, like I really spoke on earlier, but let's just take it from the top. One of the first steps is understanding where you want the heartbeat of your system to live, right? The heartbeat of that ecosystem to live, the heartbeat of your world, right? If we're creating your world, what is going to be at the center? And really, this can be, in a sense, it can be your community, it can be your profile on social media platform. I don't want to say it doesn't really matter, but at the same time, it doesn't matter because it's just because of how you build the strategy around it. And we're going to talk about really how you get into that. So, because in reality, it serves a few points, if you will here, right? This heartbeat, this center, it serves as a place to put your warmest leads. It serves as a place to offer exclusive content. It serves as a place to nurture your audience, right? It really is setting you up to over-deliver to this private group of people, which is why a community can be a great place, but it doesn't have to be a community, like I said, right? It can be your email list can also be a place that you're doing this, right? But from here, you need to then focus on creating your primary lead gen source, right? And you can do this once again, either paid ads or organic. Either or are fine. But once you have this center, it's critical that you start to now figure out your primary lead gen source, if you're on this end. And I preach this all the time as well. I think really when it comes down to business, there's really like three main elements, if you will, that really are all that matters. And I'd say number one is the offer, right? And number two is lead generation. And number three is your sales process. So really with this being said, as you can tell here, your world is heavily based off of your foundation, and your foundation is heavily based off of your offer. Your offer is going to tell you who it is that you're marketing to. Your offer is going to tell you what your branding should revolve around. Your offer is going to tell you what the messaging looks like. Your offer is that initial spark that drives the vehicle, right? And then from there, now that allows us to create our world, if you will. Now we want to start getting into this idea of how can we start to really generate leads, and the right leads, into our ecosystem, right? Once we figure out the ecosystem, we figure out the heartbeat of it. And a quick little side note, if you will, here, your ecosystem can consist of one place to start. You don't have to. The goal and the philosophy for me is when I see the ecosystem really start to blow up, and I don't mean blow up like you go viral, but blow up in the sense of you really get everything I'm teaching dialed in. You can have it where you're on multiple platforms. Right now, I'm on multiple platforms, right? I'm on YouTube, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. But I have an email list. But you need to figure out what is the main one. I say this all the time. If there's one place that you can drive someone towards, that you know it gives you the highest chance of turning that prospect into a client, you need to place all your time and energy towards getting new people to that place, right? Because the power it will give you. So really from here, though, once you now have that, we need to now understand what our primary lead gen source is. And like I said, we can do this either via paid or organic, right? And let's be clear as well too. I didn't spend a dime on paid advertising until I made my first 300,000 online, and really it was all from one platform, right? For me personally, I started off with Facebook organic, relying on outreach strict, like really was the driving force to get the ball rolling. I was beyond content, but outreach was a major difference between me and a lot of people, and really just because it was predictable. Like I was able to be selective yet again about who I was trying to bring into my world. I didn't want to take this, typical, organic content marketing of let's just see who comes to me. I didn't want that, and I think it's okay to do that. But I say I've always been a big believer of having a cold side of your strategy and a warm side of your strategy. Right? Everyone wants to go with the warm side because they just assume because that just sounds nicer, and it does sound nicer. It is nicer. But you should have both, especially if you're early on and you don't have results, because your warm side is going to be lacking heavily. But like I get a ton of referrals, word of mouth, people come to me all the time, every single month, but that was not happening in the beginning. So you need to orchestrate your lead generation, your flow, so that you give yourself an opportunity for leads to come through the pipeline, right? So I've always kind of preferred this organic outreach approach when it comes to organic because it's just so predictable. And once again, you're able to really be selective about who you are when it comes to building your audience, right? Like I said, you're acting as that security guard into your audience. So now, just think of it this way. Who's going to see your content? The people who are in your audience. Why not get very critical with who you allow to be in your audience in the first place? This is how I love to really build out audiences when it comes to organic and this outreach style. Or obviously it can be the same thing. Like I said, I'm just sharing for you what worked for me before I made my first 300K and I started spending money on ads, how you can start to do the same thing as well too. I'm a big believer in the power of one, and that's where for myself here, I always say you want to get not just like at a place where you're getting leads on one platform, you want to become profitable before you really switch over and move to another platform as well there too. Right. So when it comes to this end, that's really a big piece for me when it comes down to really understanding how you can start to build that audience and how you can really now take that approach, right? Being a big believer in the one, yes, I did and slowly end up getting on new platforms. And the next one for myself that really was big was really Instagram, by far, if you will, on that side, which is now serves for, you could argue about 50-50 of my income tied with Facebook. And maybe it's like 40-40 and then 20% spread throughout, if you will. But that's really what I want you to see as it where, let's take a step back here. You have your ecosystem, your world, if you will. In the center, you have that heartbeat, that core area, right? That core area of the system, the ecosystem, the world. And you now have a way to drive people to your world, which then the goal is to get them to the heartbeat, right? And so now from here, the goal in my eyes should really be, how can we start to get the most one-to-one conversations going as possible, right? And not just how can we get as many one-on-one conversations as possible just to talk to people, right? Because so many people, even new clients, and they're coming to me like, I'm getting conversations, but it's not getting me anywhere. It's like, well, you're not talking business at all. You're just chit-chatting and asking them how their life is. Like, this isn't going to get you where you need to get to, right? So really, with the goal being of having as many one-on-one conversations as possible, we need to start to really think about how now when we're getting into these conversations, one, how can we not come off as salesy? And two, how can we make sure that we're leading with value and really always leading in a position or being in a position of leadership in these conversations, right? If you're not the authority, no one's going to buy from you. So really with this being said here, one of the best ways to do that in a non-salesy way, right, is by creating opportunities for your audience members to raise their hands. This is why if you think about this with this approach, right, I would have it where you have your ecosystem, your world. And maybe imagine this where the heartbeat, it sits right at the front, right? And so no, at the front of your world, imagine if there's a gate and the heartbeat is right there when you get in front of the gate, right? And so now this core platform, you should have something that really gives them a chance to raise their hand and say, hey, yes, I am interested in that over here, right? It's like, hey, when they get there, it's like, hey, do you want to take this ride? You can maybe, it should be something very enticing that makes them want to take that first ride, especially think about why did they want to join your world and your ecosystem in the first place? You should have an understanding of why they joined and now create something very intentionally that's going to get them to want to raise their hand and take that next step as well too. Right? Now, I don't mean next step would have to be purchasing, but next steps where it can once again get them in front of an asset that you've created. This is where everything is really starting to come full circle, like I mentioned, with having these assets and using them using them as a way to build up value that does not come off salesy and very detached. And you can also start to sneak in call to actions and ways to get them to raise their hands in more ways, if you will, as you start to really get in the weeds with this, right? But this can be so big here, right? Because this is why creating assets is such a this is why creating assets is such a crucial part of the process, right? And as you create assets over time, you can now focus not just on selling your audience one-to-one or one-to-many, but you can actually nurture them in the same manner by getting these assets in front of them over and over and over. As new people come into your world, you can consistently get them these assets. Imagine this, like I told you, I've been doing live streams for 5 years. That's what, if we're talking, there's 52 weeks in a year, 52 times 5. I'm trying to do this in my head real quick. I probably should have done the math. It's something like 260. If I'm right, I'm giving myself some credit. 200, let's just say 260 live streams there, right? And let's minus out, I don't know, 10 to 20, if you will, over the 5 years for weeks I didn't do it. And so now that is, just think about how many assets that I have, how many different pieces I've covered when it comes to value, that I can now take one of those, and realistically, I'll probably take the best ones of them, and I will go ahead, package it up, and make it in a way so that if somebody raised their hand saying they have a problem with something over here, boom, here it is. Hey, you're having a different problem with something over here? Boom, here it is. I've got something for everything. And this is why understanding your avatar and understanding objections that you're facing within your sales process, it can help to bring fuel back to what it is you're going to actually create. And for me, when I was creating the live streams, I'm creating YouTube videos, what I'm going to actually talk about, I'm going to talk about objections that I'm hearing, false beliefs that my audience has, and really just try to set off light bulb moments all throughout. This is the game changer for you if you allow it to truly happen inside of your business, right? And this is how, once again, you can win and not come off salesy in the process, right? Once again, imagine how you can get this in the hands of your audience members, right? You can do this obviously one-to-one manually by just sending them to warm leads, right? Sending these assets to warm leads in the DMs, via text, via email, one-to-one instead of to your list, right? Or you can do this one-to-many, right? Or a variation of one-to-one strictly via automation, right? There are leveraged ways you can do this here. And really the beautiful part about this is that you can rinse and repeat this process for success once you have it dialed in, right? For myself, I remember I had one of the clients who just started working with me, no more than 2 weeks ago, prior to them working with me, right? And really, it was within the last 3 days before they bought, she binged watched my content, right? And it was, and it was all sent to her, all passively. I sent to her once she joined my society, my Coaches and Creators Society. Then from there, I gave her one asset. And within that one asset, I planted other assets that then allowed her to go down the rabbit hole. That's why I'm saying if you can construct your world, understand how to get it so that when they take that first ride, it gets them excited for what other rides there are in the park, right? It gets them excited for what other things are going on within your world. And, I'm not going to say that I believe the stat or I don't, but there's a stat where they say something like, someone has to read 7 emails before they buy, 20 emails before they buy, 20 pieces of content before they buy. Whatever the number is, that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point is that the more people can absorb your content, the better. I'll give you one big reason why it's for better, because a lot of people in the industry are just going, I want to just get more sales, so I'm just going to keep on improving my sales strategy, improving my sales tactics, get better at sales calls, just doubling down on the sales piece right here. When in reality, you have 2 other levers that you can tap into. You've got the marketing below that, and you've got the client results below that. The more client results you can get your clients, the easier it makes your marketing. Now, the easier your marketing is, the easier it is to make sales, and the less sales you have to be, and the less tactics you need to rely on. I would rather have the best of both worlds. If you want to get really good at sales, fantastic. Who do you think is going to do better? The person who's really good at sales and has terrible marketing, or the person who's really good at sales and has fantastic marketing? It's no disrespect to the first person, but the second is going to have a no-brainer, easier time. So you want to set yourself up by setting up these assets throughout your world and getting creative with how you can start to now get people to these assets and spread it out throughout your world. That is the secret sauce. Okay. So like I said, lean into this here, obviously. Hopefully you got some value. So comment value down below. If you got questions, let me know if like you have questions for me as far as, like Justice, what are some of the best ways of getting, assets to people? I'm more than happy to, to help you. Like I said, I'll reply personally in the comments. I'm always taking care of the comments myself here. But like I said, let me know if you got some value to this. Obviously hit that like button for me if you did, obviously. And definitely watch this again if you need to. Okay. But like I said here, I'm here every Wednesday dropping the goods for you. Let me know if you like this new format here compared to the live streams. As always, I'm just giving it to you raw with value. I don't need to beat around the bush. You don't want me to beat around the bush. Let's get you what you need. Okay. And lastly, actually, too, if you want my bestseller business manuscript that breaks down how I got to my first $1 million, let me know. I'll send the link to you. There's no cost to it. It's free. Let me know. I'll give it to you, and this has a ton of resources within it. Free resources within the free resource. All right. But that is it for today. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.